I got money on my mind. I'm just trying to get some dough. I ain't picking up my line unless it's money on the phone.
How'd you get your start and find your way into being a business strategist?
So it really started with like childhood. So age 7, my mom gave me 3 books to read. She gave me the Bible, the dictionary, and Black Enterprise. So everything that you see from me is like a makeup of those 3 books. And I really like started out by having pioneers within business that I looked up to, like Robert F. Smith of Vista Equity Partners, Earl Graves Sr., and really that excellence that they really gave off and all the conversations they would have. And I just kind of listened in on it. My mom is 66 years old. So I really grew up with most people who that would be their grandparents' age, that excellence that wasn't too far removed from someone who actually marched as a part of the civil rights movement and all those processes as well. So for me, that really kind of began it in business. And then like most entrepreneurs or creators, we spend the rest of our time trying to figure out our lane within business. And that's probably like the big bulk of it is like, what area am I going to take up in this whole thing? So that was the big thing.
Cool. So you went to school. I mean, like just giving a little backstory. So my brother, you went to school, got a degree in marketing, and then you got out and let's get into your journey some.
Yeah. So I would say, I would nullify and say at like age 14, I started with Fly the Wings. It was, I still remember the name. It was a poetry and spoken word event. So I performed Psalms 91 in church, where I recited, if you will, at age 7, the whole thing, memorized it. And I enjoyed like the aspect of like performance or whatever at church. So then I started writing poems when I was like 12 years old. And my cousin, Sean Ingram, he had a publishing company when he got out of the pen. And he was like, yo, you should publish a book. Well, my cousin published my first book when I was 15. It was a compilation of poems, haikus, and short stories. And at the time, I was working for a ex-football player. I won't name drop him. But I was working for an ex-football player, and he was doing like team parties. So he had his club. And y'all know how it is. Like he had the team parties going on. That was like Friday night. Then they had like the 21 and up on Saturday night. Well, all the older guys in the community or in the neighborhood, they saw that I had like a following on Facebook at the time. And one of the guys really took me underneath his wing and was like, have you ever thought about being a promoter? At this time, I'm like 15 years old. I had the poetry event that was going on and I was just getting ready to start driving. I still had like my provisional license at the time. So I was supposed to be home by 9:00, but y'all know the party don't end till like 2. So I was taking all the back roads in the country.
Taking that risk.
Yeah, I was taking that risk. But yeah, like I was doing the events. I got into doing team parties and just really kind of grew from there. I really loved Diddy at the time and like taking on that persona coming out of high school. So by the time I graduated high school, the area where I'm from, which is Clinton, North Carolina, it's about 30 minutes outside of Fayetteville where J. Cole grew up. Like everybody, y'all know how it is if you grow up in the country, like counties and zip codes are kind of like your own region type thing. So whether it was people from Northern Raleigh, which is a 919 where John Wall is from, or like Fayetteville again, like Dennis Smith and those guys, I knew a lot of people just from doing the parties in the country. So by the time I went to college and went to A&T, I had a strong following by the time that I was going there. And then many people would say the rest was history, but colleges where, especially HBCUs, colleges are where your gifts are cultivated. You really kind of find your stride when you're within, especially at HBCU, because now you have this one opportunity, and that's why I'm a huge advocate of HBCUs. You have this one opportunity within a community that looks just like you. And you really have to leverage that community to learn the gifts that you need to when you leave college, because you may not, again, unless you're the owner of your own company, be in that same kind of environment
where you
again.
Can be around all these different people who are going to be all these different things. Thanks.
That was probably the short run. But yeah, man, like that is really what led me to a lot. And starting the nonprofit took place there. Journey of Mine Incorporated. It's a 501c3 tax-exempt organization. We raise awareness for mental health, personal development, and travel. Started that in September 2017. We got articles of incorporation to be a 501c3 in January of 2018. And from there, it really kind of started putting together the pieces of the puzzle for my life, for sure.
Hey, man, that's beautiful, bro. So, man, I kind of want to hop into some of the business strategist thing. Well, first, honestly, no, before that nonprofit, because I do want to talk more about that. A journey for mine. So you raising awareness, a journey of mine. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
journey of mine.
You good?
Mine.
Journey of mind. So think about like instead of saying mind as in possession, journey of mind.
Journey of mine. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like primarily for people from our community, correct?
Yeah, Black and brown communities for sure. So I had my first suicide attempt, age 16. I ran my mom's Explorer into a tree. And then my second suicide attempt came in September of 2016. My last and final one, praise God. And it really came to a point where I was just like, hey, I need to take this platform that's been built from doing nightlife parties with 3,000 plus people, whatever, and really kind of turn it around to be able to help others that look like me who were going through the similar issues that I had. Most times we think that mental health is the people who are over in the corner or the guy in class that wears the same clothes every day, but there's people who are on platforms that are suffering just the same.
Facts.
I was making more money in nightlife at that time in college, and I was on the road with the baby at that time. In college, that's when we came to Texas. I was telling you, we came to South by Southwest.
Oh, you was with him when he had the diaper on and all that stuff?
I was holding the signs up.
Dang.
Yeah, I was holding the signs up. That was my internship. I was interning with Arnold Taylor and South Coast Music Group. And we came down here to Texas with him. I was still in college. I just didn't show up to class that week. I told my dean I was going for an internship. She was like, what internship is in the middle of a school week? And I just came to Texas. We were in Texas the whole week.
Hey, I love it though. Like you made it happen. You went in places, put your face places that it needed to be. So like, okay, so you built the nonprofit up, you started helping people. I love that. When did the transition come from like that nightlife? Because I know you said you want to start like taking that platform, doing something positive, to when you started finding your lane in the business side of things.
I would say, I would definitely say after that second attempt. So going through like issues and like kind of mental health is kind of like a car, right? And if you don't maintenance yourself, you don't do self-care, you don't practice the things that you need to be on a well standpoint, you're kind of driving without a destination. You have a purpose. King right here has a purpose. Everybody has a purpose that they were put in this world to do. The longer that you stay away from that purpose, the more you're driving in circles. And I think for me, I knew I was driving in circles. I knew I was great at hosting parties and bringing people together and stuff, but you feel so empty. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. Your money room is full of money. You counting with the owners, but you feel empty inside. So I think really for me, after that last attempt, praise God, being able to sit down and say, how am I going to use the time that I have left to make sure that it's the most purposeful and fulfilling time that I have, however long God has for me, is really when it started turning into business, because I learned more from starting a nonprofit first than I did of starting a for-profit, which came second. It's so much.
Sorry, I had a question about that too. I want to take a step back and like really examine that choice to make your business a nonprofit versus a for-profit business, especially considering the fact that most people usually think of business as something that's usually just for-profit and not just like, I want to make an impact on people and really just help people. Like, how did you first off figure out that a nonprofit was a route that you wanted to go, and why particularly go that route?
Damon John told me. So he came to my school and he was giving like his story about FUBU and, you know, starting FUBU and moving into the industry and Shark Tank or whatever. And he was having like a Shark Tank at our school that I didn't make it because I didn't have no official business yet. I just had this hashtag, which was Trust Your Journey at the time. And I had all the Greeks, like my older brother's a Q-Dog. My best friend was an Alpha. He was Mr. A&T at the time. I had all the Greeks like posting their pictures and hashtag Trust Your Journey. So it really started popping. When he came, the SGA president was my guy. Of course, you know, when you're the promoter, you know everybody, so they help you get in the events and everything.
Right.
So the SGA president was like, bro, I'm going to get you up there so you can ask a question. You know, trust your journey, get right, bro. So I went up to the front and I asked him, I broke it down. I was like, hey, I have a passion. I want to help people, but I'm broke. And he was like, your route should be going to nonprofit instead of actually starting a for-profit business. At the time, I had these T-shirts with like this leaf. You can't see it on the video, but this double helix leaf that I have as an emblem, I was selling the shirts. So I was like, I really want to help people. I don't want to focus on business right now. And that was the passion. And I think a lot of businesses that I consult with now, we have conversations. I start with, how are we going to monetize and form an entity around your passion? Because if you go the wrong route with it, something that you set out to love and enjoy can end up becoming kind of a curse because you didn't form it the right way. So I'm so thankful with Damon Johns. Like he spoke to me that day. He made it hard, just like Shark Tank. He was hard on me in front of like the whole auditorium or whatever. But it was a humbling moment to say, hey, I'm gonna start a nonprofit with no money, as opposed to going into a for-profit and having to lean on dollars. Because y'all know how it is. Like when you're trying to get your stuff off, like, yeah, you passionate about your platform or your brand or whatever the case may be, but you got to get these off.
You got to get it in front of people.
Right.
Yeah.
I think Nipsey was the one that said, basically he was saying when money is not like a part of the creative process, you can create so much more freely because I don't need this to make money. I can just create. I can solely do this for its intent and its purpose.
Man, I'm really happy you touched on that. Like, because I think that's something that a lot of people don't think about when they're first forming a business. Like, hey, do I actually want to like do something where I'm gonna have to get off a product or like I'm gonna have to sell stuff?
Come on,
I'm gonna sell my service.
Change your strategy completely different versus if you're trying to just help people or you just want to do something slightly different. Like it changes the strategy with how you have to go about it, as well as the way that you have to raise capital.
That's good. King, and I'll add too to that, like with the nonprofit, with Journey of Mine, I've never had to really pay for anything outside of services or events that we did as far as like structure. That was provided pro bono. Dr. Catherine Otto, she's a Zeta, and she just saw the mission that we had with our nonprofit, and she donated her services to the nonprofit pro bono. And then Miss Wiley, Ashley C. Wiley, like she introduced us to that. At that time, it was a foundation in Greensboro, North Carolina. It was the Guilford County Consortium. So she introduced me to that. And like at this time, I'm like 21 years old. I didn't know anything about these chambers. We were talking about that off air, talking about the Chamber of Commerce and all this like free knowledge, free coaching and education that was provided for, especially in that case, for nonprofits. So really, to answer your question again, when it comes to business, I learned about leveraging these organizations, these chambers that are made to help you. They are put there to help you. As my mom would say, go down there and get that free information. Like I was going down there and I was getting that free info and going to those workshops that they would have. And that's really, I would say, again, what leveraged me to be able to have the information early on to get help in business. You want to go, we're talking about my first client who's here. Like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, you got to go together. And that's really what it was.
Message.
Hear, but it said that.
No, I heard it.
But no, yeah, bro, like that's so crucial and so important. I kind of, now that you brought up the chambers, it kind of leads into my next question. I know you said you started the nonprofit without any capital for yourself. So you went to these chambers of commerce and you learned about the ways to actually get this capital. So could you kind of go into like, how as a nonprofit did you get that startup capital? Yeah,
so initially it started with Dr. Otto Ashley C. Wiley. I can't remember who it was. It was like almost 4 years ago. But basically she connected the dots. So once they saw my mission online, I had not done a television interview at that time. I had a video that went viral. So I was speaking about the nonprofit. I was talking about mental health. This is before mental health got popular. Let me break this down for y'all and what I mean by that. Like it was 2017 where SZA had just kind of came out with her song. Everybody was just getting into like the more earthy type feels. Y'all know how music started kind of changing around 2017. Mental health for Black men wasn't so popular yet. It was still very much taboo, and definitely for the community at large.
Yeah.
I did a video on the football field. It got like 22,000 views talking about my suicide attempt. So from there, it got reshared. Y'all know how Facebook goes. And then she had reached out. I can't remember who came first, but I went and sat with her and was like, hey, I want to start a nonprofit. I have no money. I'm living off of a refund check right now. I had just quit nightlife like that August. So I had left the club. My regular paid $200 for hosting or whatever, and they had no income. But I wanted to help people and do this nonprofit. I wanted to connect the dots. So she was the one that educated me. Okay, cool. Well, if we start working on the paperwork, we do the Secretary of State. It's going to cost, I think, $90 to do a nonprofit. Might be $60 in North Carolina. I think $60 for nonprofits. I think LLCs is $125. So y'all take me on that, whatever. I'm a pay for it. So Miss Ashley had actually sent her the money. She paid for the filings for me on my behalf. And then the consulting person, this is why consultants are great. She was like, I see your mission, young man. I want to be a part of that. I know you're going to go far. So she just made her services pro bono. And of course, you can write that off in your taxes with an invoice as well. So she wrote it off. And then from there, they just continue to connect the dots whenever there's an event going on. A lot of these folks, I want to give people context. That's my thing. A lot of the help that you guys need is not going to come from the people who have the most followers. They may not even have an Instagram account. It may be a Facebook business page or a group that you need to go find and just go to your Facebook and type in business pages or Dallas business or whatever, and just start getting a part of those associations and businesses. If once you get connected to the dots, like the Dallas Chamber of Commerce, I paid $75 to be an individual, or you can be a business, whatever. You can be a part of the chamber, and based on your payment as a partner for a year, it gives you the access to whatever their resources are. If it's a book of all the names of the members, cold call those, sell your product, sell your solution, introduce yourself, whatever. If you paid a high level package or whatever to be a part of something, like get a part of that organization and start finding out who does what. That's literally what it was made for. I think one of the things that we lose a lot within our community is that we've gotten so into them phones and so locked into that. We don't know how, I'm from the country, y'all. We don't know how to open our mouths and just talk to folk anymore, as my mom would say, like, shake my hand before COVID, of course, like, hey, this is what I do. And I had to do that, like looking crazy, broke college student, used to be a club promoter, still smell like the club, like Dolph said, still smell like it. Like at these events with these corporate folks over a $90 million account at that time, what it was in Guilford County. And here I am, a 6'1" black guy in the room. Not too many people that look like me, but this is free. The organization said, pull up, come to this, it's free. I'm eating their little danishes and whatever. I'm enjoying myself and I'm learning. And that's another thing too, King, is we gotta get outside of our comfort zone.
Real talk.